The meditation chambers of the Grand Concordat's central nexus were never meant to carry screams. For 10,000 years, they had resonated only with peaceful thoughts and harmonious mental energies. But today, primary seer Nalara's consciousness-splitting shriek shattered that millennia-old serenity. The chamber's crystalline walls pulsed with disturbed energy as Nalara's fellow seers rushed to stabilize her neural patterns. Their slender, opalescent bodies moved in practiced synchronization, their elongated fingers weaving complex patterns in the air as they attempted to ground their colleagues' consciousness. The void, it consumes, it hungers. Nalara's thoughts broadcast themselves involuntarily across the chamber's psychic matrix. The other seers caught fragmentary images, vast swarms of crystalline ships that seemed to absorb light itself, worlds going dark one by one, and most terrifyingly, billions of minds being devoured by a consciousness that was both singular and legion. First Speaker Ven burst into the chamber, his usually pristine white robes disheveled from his hurried arrival. The leader of the Concordat's ruling council took in the scene with eyes that shifted through spectrums of light invisible to most species. "Report," he commanded, his thought voice steady despite his obvious concern. Senior Seer Karis turned from where he was monitoring Nalara's neural patterns. First Speaker, Primary Seer Nalara, was conducting a routine far-seeing of the outer territories when she encountered something our filters didn't detect. "Show me," Ven ordered, stepping onto the chamber's central platform. The other seers linked their minds with his, creating a perfect psychic replica of Nalara's vision. Ven watched in horror as the scene unfolded. The Void Collective, as Nalara. The revelation hit Ven like a physical blow. The human brain produced so much natural noise that it was nearly impossible for any Concordat telepath to read or influence their minds. What had once been seen as a mark of their primitive nature could be their greatest asset against the Void Collective's psychic attacks. "The assessment was wrong," Nalara continued. "We avoided them because we feared their capacity for violence. But we never considered that this capacity might someday be needed. The humans have something we lost long ago: the ability to fight for survival at any cost." Ven stood in silence, his mind processing the implications. Contact with humanity would irreversibly change Concordat society. Their peaceful civilization would have to learn the ways of war, guided by a species they had long considered too dangerous to approach. But as he watched another replay of the Void Collective consuming a world, he realized they had no choice. The Concordat had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of peace. Now they would have to learn the price of maintaining it. "Prepare a contact package," he ordered finally. "Include everything we know about the Void Collective. And," he paused, choosing his next words carefully, "make sure they understand that we know what we're asking. We need their warriors, their weapons, their understanding of combat. In return, we offer our technology, our resources, and our trust." As the seers moved to comply with his orders, Ven turned his consciousness toward Earth's direction. For millennia, the Concordat had preserved peace by avoiding conflict. Now their only hope for survival lay in embracing it, and in allies who had never forgotten its necessity. The message would take 3 days to reach Earth. Ven could only hope that humanity's violent nature came with an equal capacity for mercy, because if the humans refused their plea, the 10,000-year peace of the Concordat would end not with a war, but with absolute absorption into the void. Admiral Sarah Chen stood motionless before the United Earth Defense Council, her weathered features illuminated by the holographic display of the Concordat's message. The chamber was silent save for the soft hum of environmental systems and the occasional rustle of fabric as council members shifted in their seats. "Play it again," she ordered, her dark eyes fixed on the ethereal form of First Speaker Ven. As the message repeated, she noted details she'd missed in the previous viewings. The subtle tremor in the alien leader's thought voice, the way the crystalline chamber's walls pulsed with distress, the profound desperation underlying every carefully chosen word. "Well," Council Chairman Rodriguez broke the silence, "this is unprecedented. After centuries of watching us from afar, they finally make contact, because they need our capacity for violence. A hint of irony colored his voice. They need our capacity for survival, Chen corrected, turning to face the council. There's a difference. Look at their technical data on these Void Collective ships. They're not just weapons, they're consciousness-draining engines. The Concordat isn't just fighting for territory or resources, they're fighting for the right to remain themselves. Defense Minister Patel leaned forward, her fingers steepled. And you believe we should help them? A civilization that has, by their own admission, considered us too dangerous to contact until now. Chen's response was interrupted by the chamber's eye announcing an incoming transmission. Priority alert from Deep Space Monitoring Station Delta. Unknown vessels detected at the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Configuration matches Concordat records of Void Collective scouts. The room erupted in controlled chaos as screens filled with tactical data. Chen's expression hardened as she studied the readings. They're not just coming for the Concordat, she said quietly. They're expanding in all directions. We have faced them eventually, but without the Concordat's warning, we'd have been blind to their true nature. The question remains, Rodriguez pressed. Do we commit Earth's forces to defending an alien civilization that has shunned us for centuries? Chen activated her neural interface, projecting her tactical analysis onto the main display. With respect, Mr. Chairman, I believe we're asking the wrong question. The real question is, can we afford to pass up this opportunity? The display shifted to show the Concordat's technological offerings. Their consciousness technology is centuries ahead of ours. They've mastered faster-than-light communication, developed shields that can deflect energy weapons, and created navigation systems that make our best computers look primitive. Yes, they've avoided conflict, but that means all their innovation went into other areas. And you think we can integrate their technology with our military capabilities? Patil asked, studying the specifications with growing interest. I think we have to try, Chen replied. The Void Collective is unlike anything we've prepared for. They don't just kill, they absorb. Every world they take makes them stronger. If we wait until they reach our borders, we'll be facing not just their original force, but the combined strength of every civilization they've consumed along the way. The council chambers fell silent again as the implications sank in. Finally, Rodriguez spoke. You have a plan, Admiral. Chen nodded, her movements precise and controlled. The Concordat's message included coordinates for a neutral meeting point. I propose we send the 7th Fleet. Enough ships to show our capability, but not so many as to leave Earth vulnerable. We'll need scientists, engineers, and diplomatic personnel in addition to military forces. The 7th Fleet is our most advanced, Patel noted. Are you sure you want to commit them to this? The 7th Fleet was designed for deep space operations, Chen explained. Their ships are modular, able to integrate new technology more easily than our other vessels. If we're going to combine Concordat tech with our systems, they're our best option. Rodriguez looked around the chamber, reading the faces of his fellow council members. We'll need to inform the public. This will change everything. Our isolation ends the moment we commit to this. Our isolation was always an illusion, Chen countered. We've known about other civilizations for centuries. We've prepared for first contact scenarios. The only difference is that instead of reaching out in peace or facing an outright invasion, we're being asked for help. The Council voted unanimously to approve the mission. Within hours, the 7th Fleet began preparations for departure. Chen watched from her flagship, the UES Sentinel, as ships moved into formation. The fleet was a testament to humanity's martial progress. Destroyers with quantum-tipped missiles, cruisers carrying electromagnetic pulse cannons, and carriers housing squadrons of AI-assisted fighters. As the fleet prepared for its first faster-than-light jump, Chen recorded her personal log. Humanity's greatest strength has always been our ability to adapt. We survived our death world not just through force, but through innovation and cooperation. The Concordat fears our violent nature, but they've never seen how we channel that violence, not for conquest or cruelty, but for protection. They're about to learn that humans don't just fight well, we fight for causes we believe in. And protecting another civilization from extinction, that's a cause worth fighting for. The Sentinel's quantum drive hummed to life as Chen gave the order to jump. As the fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, she reflected on the irony of their situation. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for hostile first contact, building weapons and training soldiers. Instead, their first official interaction with an alien civilization would be as protectors, warriors called upon not to conquer, but to preserve. The journey to the rendezvous point would take 5 days. Chen used that time to study everything the Concordat had shared about themselves and their enemy. The more she learned about both, the more she understood why they had sought humanity's help. The Concordat had mastered the art of reaching into minds. Humans had mastered the art of armoring them. Together, perhaps they could find a way to defeat an enemy that sought to devour consciousness itself. As her ship hurtled through space, Chen prepared herself for the challenges ahead. Teaching the ways of war to a civilization that had known only peace would not be easy. But as she reviewed the footage of Void Collective attacks, she knew it was necessary. Sometimes the price of peace was the readiness to defend it. A lesson humanity had learned long ago on their hostile homeworld, and one they were about to teach to the stars. Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez squinted at the pulsing crystals of the Concordat meditation chamber, trying to understand what she was seeing. Around her, Concordat seers moved in their flowing, precise patterns while her fellow human soldiers sat cross-legged on the chamber floor, their combat armor looking absurdly out of place among the ethereal architecture. "You're trying too hard," Senior Seer Karras said, his thought voice gentle. "Your species' natural mental resistance is not a wall to be broken, but a foundation to be built upon." Maya relaxed her shoulders, following the breathing exercises they'd been taught. For 3 weeks, the human forces had been attempting to integrate their combat experience with Concordat consciousness technology. The results had been mixed. "Got something," Private Chen called out from across the chamber. The crystals near him flared briefly before returning to their regular pulse. "Never mind. Lost it." Maya understood their frustration. The Void Collective's advance had already consumed 2 outer Concordat worlds. Every day spent learning was another day the enemy grew stronger. But Admiral Chen had been adamant. They needed to understand their allies' capabilities before they could effectively fight together. An alarm pierced the meditation chamber's serenity. Multiple Void Collective signatures detected in the Lyra system. The ship's AI announced, "Concordat colonial evacuation in progress." Maya was on her feet instantly, her squad moving with practiced precision toward the armory. As they ran, Karras's thought voice followed them. "Remember what you've learned. Your mental noise is not a weakness. It is a weapon waiting to be harnessed." The UES Sentinel's launch bay was organized chaos as fighters prepared for deployment. Maya's squad boarded their assault shuttle, now modified with Concordat crystalline technology. The neural interface in her helmet connected with the ship's systems, and she felt the strange double awareness they'd been training for. "All units, be advised." Admiral Chen's voice came through the comm. "This is not a drill. We are implementing Protocol Aegis. Concordat ships will provide psychic screening while human forces engage the enemy directly. Remember your training and remember what we're fighting for." Maya's shuttle launched alongside dozens of others, their formation tight as they approached the battle zone. Through the viewport, she saw her first real glimpse of the Void Collective's ships. Crystalline structures that seemed to drink in light, moving with an organic fluidity that made them appear alive. "Multiple contacts, closing fast," her pilot reported. "Void ships launching psychic attacks." Maya felt a slight pressure at the edges of her consciousness, the enemy trying to find purchase in her mind. But just as Karras had taught them, the human soldier's natural mental static created a barrier that the Void Collective's consciousness-draining weapons couldn't easily penetrate. "Now comes the interesting part," Maya muttered, activating the crystalline amplifiers they'd installed in their combat suits. The Concordat had discovered that human mental resistance, when properly channeled, could be turned outward. They couldn't match the aliens' psychic abilities, but they could project their natural noise as a disrupting force. The first wave of void ships hit the human Concordat defense line. Concordat vessels, their hulls gleaming with psychic energy, created spaces of mental clarity for the human forces to operate in. Human ships responded with conventional weapons, their missiles and energy weapons tearing into the enemy's physical forms, while their crews projected waves of disruptive mental static. Maya's shuttle reached its target, a Concordat colonial outpost being approached by void boarding craft. "Remember," she told her squad as they prepared to repel boarders, "they'll try to get in your head. Keep your thoughts chaotic, your emotions raw. They can't consume what they can't comprehend." The battle that followed was unlike anything in human military history. Maya's squad moved through the outpost's crystalline corridors, engaging void troops in both physical and mental combat. The enemy soldiers were horrifying up close, their forms shifting between solid and ethereal states, their presence alone trying to draw the consciousness from anything nearby. But humanity had spent millennia evolving on a world that tried to kill them daily. Their minds, shaped by that brutal crucible, proved remarkably resistant to the void's attempts at absorption. More than that, the very chaos of human consciousness seemed to cause the void entity's physical pain when properly focused through Concordat technology. "They're pulling back," someone shouted after hours of fighting. Maya watched through a viewport as the surviving void ships retreated, their crystalline forms seemingly dimmed. The victory had come at a cost. Several human ships had been destroyed, and many Concordat vessels bore psychic scars that would take time to heal. But they had proven something crucial. The combination of human resilience and Concordat technology could hurt the enemy. In the battle's aftermath, Maya found herself back in the meditation chamber, this time accompanied by veterans from both species. The humans were battered but proud, while the Concordat members seemed shaken by their first real experience of combat. "Your minds," one of the Concordat observers said with a mixture of awe and concern. "They're so alive with violence. Even now, hours after battle, you surge with it. How do you bear it?" Maya thought carefully before responding. "On Earth, there's an old story about a guardian dog that lives with sheep. It has the strength to hurt the sheep, the instinct to hunt them, but instead, it uses that strength to protect them. Violence isn't our nature, it's our tool, one we've learned to control and direct." The chamber's crystals pulsed with understanding as the Concordat members processed this perspective. Humanity's capacity for violence had frightened them, but now they were beginning to see it differently, not as mindless destruction, but as a force that could be channeled for protection. Admiral Chen's voice came through the ship-wide comm. "All personnel, prepare for immediate deployment. Long-range sensors have detected a major Void Collective fleet gathering. They're adapting their tactics. Next time will be harder." Maya stood, her armor's crystals humming in harmony with the chamber. They had won their first real battle, but the war was far from over. The enemy would learn from this defeat, adjust their strategies. But so would the human Concordat alliance. As she headed for her post, Maya reflected on how quickly both species were changing. Humans were learning to harness their mental chaos in ways they'd never imagined, while the Concordat was discovering that their long peace had not made them incapable of fighting. It had just taught them to fight differently. The real question was, which side would adapt faster? The Void Collective, consuming and incorporating new consciousness into their hive, or this unlikely alliance of chaos and serenity, learning to turn their differences into strengths? The answer would determine not just the fate of their civilizations, but the very nature of consciousness in their galaxy. The holographic display in the Sentinel's war room showed a sea of red markers advancing through Concordat space. Admiral Chen studied the tactical overlay, her expression grim. 3 months of constant warfare had taught both sides harsh lessons about adaptation. "They're learning," She said to the assembled human and Concordat commanders, "Look at their formation. They're keeping their consciousness-drained ships behind screens of conventional forces now. They've adapted to our combined tactics." First speaker Ven, attending via quantum link from the Concordat capital, nodded slowly. His once pristine robes now bore military insignia, a sign of how much his civilization had changed. "Our outer colonies report the void entities have developed resistance to basic mental static projection. They're evolving." "Of course they are," Maya Rodriguez interjected. Now promoted to captain after her successes in early battles, she pointed to a particular cluster of enemy signatures. "Every world they consume adds to their understanding. They're not just absorbing consciousness, they're absorbing knowledge, experience, tactical awareness." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Every victory the Void Collective achieved made them exponentially more dangerous. They were learning warfare from every military mind they consumed, adaptation from every species they encountered. Senior Seer Karis, his crystalline staff now modified to serve as a weapon, stepped forward. "We've detected something else in our deep scans. The collective consciousness. It's becoming unstable. The more minds they absorb, the more difficult it becomes for them to maintain coherence." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Show me." The hologram shifted, displaying psychic energy readings from recent battles. The void entity's consciousness patterns showed increasing fluctuations, moments of chaos in their usually orderly hive mind. "It's like a computer trying to run too many programs at once," Maya observed. "Each new consciousness they absorb adds complexity, variables, conflicts." "That's it," Chen whispered, then louder. "That's it. We've been thinking about human mental noise all wrong. We've been using it as a shield, a weapon. But what if it's the key to something bigger?" She turned to Karis. "Your people developed technology to enhance and project consciousness. We've been using it to amplify our natural mental static. But what if we went further? What if we could project not just noise, but the full chaos of human consciousness?" Ven's image flickered as he leaned forward. The strain would be enormous. No human mind could survive broadcasting itself at that intensity. "Not alone," Chen agreed. "But what if we linked multiple minds together, like your meditation chambers do? Not to achieve harmony like your people do, but to create a deliberate cacophony." Karis's eyes widened as he grasped the concept. A psychic weapon of mass disruption. The combined chaos of multiple human minds, amplified through our technology, could overload their ability to maintain consciousness coherence. Maya finished. Force them to either release their absorbed minds or risk total collapse. The next 12 hours were a blur of preparation. The Sentinel's meditation chamber was modified into something new. A psychic amplification array that looked more like a combat facility than a place of peaceful reflection. Maya and 11 other human volunteers were selected for the first test, chosen for their particularly strong mental resistance and combat experience. "Remember," Karis instructed as they took their positions, "don't try to focus your thoughts. Let your minds run wild. Think of battles, of Earth's storms, of everything chaotic and unpredictable about your world. We'll handle the amplification and targeting." The test nearly destroyed the chamber. The combined mental chaos of 12 human minds, each thinking about the most turbulent aspects of their existence, overwhelmed the initial containment systems. But it worked. When focused into a beam, the psychic chaos acted like a computer virus in the Void Collective's consciousness network. They got their chance to deploy the weapon 2 days later. A Void fleet attacked the Concordat core world of Luminara, clearly intent on absorbing its population of powerful psychics. But this time, the defenders were ready. The battle began conventionally, human ships engaging the Void's frontline forces, while Concordat vessels provided psychic support. But as the enemy committed their main consciousness-drained ships to the attack, Chen gave the signal. Maya felt herself being lifted into the amplification chamber aboard the Sentinel, her mind linking with her fellow volunteers. The Concordat technicians began the power-up sequence as the ship maneuvered into position. "Remember your training." Chen's voice came through the comm. "Don't fight the chaos. Embrace it. Think about everything that makes humanity what we are. Our conflicts, our passions, our contradictions." Maya thought about Earth's raging oceans and explosive volcanoes, about humanity's constant drive to explore and challenge limits, about the controlled violence of combat and the wild joy of victory. Around her, she felt the other minds doing the same, their combined consciousness becoming a storm of pure human chaos. The Concordat amplifiers engage, focusing that storm into a weapon. When it struck the Void Fleet, the effect was immediate and devastating. Enemy ships began to break formation, their crystalline forms flickering as their unified consciousness fractured under the assault of pure human mental chaos. Energy spike. Someone shouted over the comm. The Void ships, they're releasing consciousness. Through the psychic link, Maya felt it happening. The Void Collective's carefully maintained network of absorbed minds was coming apart, unable to contain both its existing consciousness collection and the overwhelming chaos being projected into it. Like a computer suffering a catastrophic cascade failure, it began to release its stored minds in a desperate attempt to maintain stability. But it wasn't just releasing consciousness, it was being forced to experience the full spectrum of human thought and emotion, something its rigid hive mind structure couldn't process. Ships began to crystallize completely, their crews choosing complete solidification over continued exposure to the psychic assault. When it was over, the Luminara system was littered with crystallized void ships, their consciousness drain capability permanently burned out. The freed minds of their victims were gradually collected by Concordat vessels, ready to be restored to new bodies through their advanced consciousness technology. In the aftermath, as Maya recovered in the Sentinel's medical bay, Admiral Chen visited the volunteers. "You've given us more than a victory," she said. "You've given us a way to free those they've taken." The Concordat is already adapting this technique for large-scale use. Maya managed a tired smile. The ultimate irony. They feared our violent nature, but it was our chaotic minds that gave us the key to victory. Chen nodded. "There's still a long campaign ahead. The Void Collective will try to adapt to this too. But for the first time, we're not just fighting them. We're making them understand that some forms of consciousness aren't meant to be controlled. Sometimes chaos isn't weakness, it's strength." As she drifted off to sleep, Maya thought about how far both species had come. The Concordat had learned to channel peace into power, while humanity had discovered their mental chaos could save civilizations. Together, they were becoming something neither species had imagined possible, warriors who fought not to destroy consciousness, but to preserve its right to remain free and diverse. The war wasn't over, but its nature had fundamentally changed. The Void Collective had sought to impose unity through absorption. Instead, they had helped forge a different kind of unity, one built on respect for differences and the strength found in diversity of thought. The Void Collective's homeworld defied conventional description. Its surface was a single massive crystalline structure, pulsing with the combined consciousness of countless absorbed minds. The joint human Concordat fleet hung in high orbit, their ships arrayed in a formation that would have been impossible 6 months ago. Admiral Chen stood on the Sentinel's bridge, watching the final preparations through the main viewport. The ship itself had evolved, its hull now an intricate blend of human engineering and Concordat consciousness technology. Like the Alliance itself, it represented something entirely new in the galaxy. "The Collective is broadcasting," Captain Maya Rodriguez reported from her station, now equipped with both tactical displays and psychic monitoring crystals. "They're offering terms." After all this time, First Speaker Ven said from his position beside Chen, "They'd finally want to negotiate." The Concordat leader's presence on a warship would have been unthinkable a year ago. Now he wore his military insignia with the same dignity as his ceremonial robes. Chen's expression remained neutral. "Put it through." The bridge's holographic display came to life, showing a shifting crystalline form that somehow managed to convey both menace and fear. When it spoke, its voice was a chorus of millions. "You have proven problematic," the collective stated. "We offer a compromise. Keep your outer territories. We will restrict our consumption to willing participants." "No," Chen replied simply. The crystalline form flickered with what might have been surprise. "You would risk everything in final battle. We have adapted to your psychic chaos weapon. Your advantage is gone." "Is it?" Chen gestured to Senior Seer Karis, who activated the ship's enhanced scanning systems. "Look closer at your own world. Your consciousness network is fragmenting. Every mind you've absorbed brings its own chaos, its own desires. You're not achieving unity. You're brewing revolution." Maya's console lit up with alerts, multiple consciousness signatures destabilizing within the collective. They're trying to break free. The collective's form twisted in obvious distress. "Impossible. We are unity. We are peace through absorption. Individual consciousness is inefficient, chaotic." "Chaos isn't weakness," Ven interrupted, his thought voice carrying the weight of his species' journey from passive observers to active defenders. "We feared humanity's chaotic nature until we understood its value. Every mind is meant to be unique. True unity comes from choosing to work together, not from forced absorption." Chen nodded to Maya. Now, the human Concordat fleet activated their evolved version of the psychic chaos weapon. But this wasn't the raw assault they'd first developed. This was something new, a carefully controlled broadcast that carried not just human mental chaos, but the combined wisdom of both species. Through the psychic link, they projected the truth they'd discovered. That consciousness was meant to be diverse, that strength came from choosing to cooperate while maintaining individuality, that true peace wasn't the absence of conflict, but the ability to resolve it while respecting differences. The effect on the collective's homeworld was immediate and stunning. The crystalline surface began to fracture, not in destruction, but in transformation. Millions of individual consciousness signatures began to emerge, breaking free from the forced unity of the collective. "Message from the surface," Maya reported, her voice filled with wonder. "The original void species, they're awakening." The collective wasn't their natural state. It was an experiment in forced evolution that went wrong. They'd been trapped in it for millennia. The battle that followed wasn't fought with weapons but with ideas. The human Concordat fleet launched shuttles carrying combined teams of consciousness technicians. They worked tirelessly to help stabilize and separate the millions of minds being freed from the collective. Hours turned to days as the massive undertaking continued. The void homeworld's surface transformed, the single crystalline mass breaking into billions of smaller structures, each housing an individual consciousness choosing its own path. 1 week later, Admiral Chen stood in a makeshift conference room on the surface, facing the newly emerged Council of Free Void Citizens. The crystalline beings before her were nothing like the hostile swarm they'd fought. These were individuals, each with their own thoughts and desires. "We offer our deepest apologies," the council spokesperson said, their form shifting with emotion. "The collective began as an attempt to achieve perfect unity. We never imagined it would become a force of consumption that would trap us all. The important thing," Chen replied, "is that you chose to break free. Every consciousness in the galaxy has the right to choose its own path. The reconstruction efforts would take years. The Concordat offered their consciousness technology to help restore absorbed minds to new bodies. Humanity provided their expertise in individual identity and mental resilience. The freed void citizens contributed their advanced crystalline technology, now repurposed for creation rather than consumption." Back on the Sentinel, Maya found Admiral Chen in the ship's meditation chamber, now a symbol of how far both species had come. "Hard to believe it's really over," Maya said, looking at the shifting patterns in the crystalline walls. Chen smiled. "Not over. Evolving. Look at what we've achieved, not just victory in war, but the birth of something new. The Concordat has learned that peace sometimes requires the strength to fight. Humanity has discovered that our chaotic nature isn't a flaw but a gift, and the void species has freed itself from a prison of false unity. What happens now? Now we build something unprecedented. Chen gestured to the stars visible through the chamber's viewport, a federation of truly free consciousness. The Concordat's wisdom, humanity's adaptability, and the void species' transformed technology, all working together by choice, not compulsion. Maya touched one of the crystalline walls, feeling the harmonic energies that now linked their species not in conquest or desperation, but in cooperation. The price of peace, she mused, was learning its true value. Chen finished, not in the absence of chaos or conflict, but in the choice to face them together. As the Sentinel prepared to return to Earth, its crew, human and Concordat alike, knew they were carrying home more than victory. They had discovered a fundamental truth about consciousness itself, that true strength lies not in enforced unity or singular purpose, but in the beautiful chaos of diversity bound together by choice. The war against the Void Collective had ended, but its greatest legacy was just beginning. A new understanding that would reshape the galaxy's future. The Deathworlders had not just answered a call for help, they had helped forge a new way of existence, where peace and strength, chaos and order, individual and community could all coexist in dynamic balance. The price of peace had indeed been high, but its rewards would echo through the cosmos for generations to come.